Hi, welcome to Inside the Lines. I'm Lizi Arbogast alongside Scott Hardy, and we are back to talk another week of football. First, we want to thank our sponsors, Ratty and Langley Funeral Homes, as well as Alex City Marine and Dark Insurance Agency. We have some mixing it up a little bit this week. We have a Thursday night game. Benjamin Russell hosts Minor on Thursday night, 7 o'clock. Minor kind of turned the tables on him a little bit last year, but I think this year will be a much different story.
Yeah, I think last year's game, I saw some of the more crazy plays that I've seen during a football game or during my tenure covering games. They went for it on fourth down twice, fourth and long very twice on fake the punt. They were at the 45 or 50. Sure. And scored off of that, or maybe got the first down, but then it was like fourth and forever. They went for it on their own one and scored a touchdown somehow. And the band played Purple Rain during. It was a lot of stuff happening during last year's game.
That you never see during football
season.
Like
it was playing while they were getting ready to score a touchdown, and so it was just a lot of fun for them, not for Wildcat fans. But you're right. I think that there's a different makeup of both teams. Minor does have 3 losses on the year already, coming off a loss actually last week. So, there's a chance for the Wildcats to get a redemption game here against Minor.
We still don't know if David Heron will return this week, but offensively, Benjamin Russell didn't really need him too much last week. A.J. Thompson and Keaton Young both had over 100 yards of offense. I think that's both the first time either one of them has had over 100 yards of offense. So it's kind of nice to see them break out of their shell a little bit and certainly put up some points, even though they were missing David.
Yeah, and I think that bodes well for the rest of the games and then heading into a playoff stretch. The Wildcats find themselves still in the thick of things, fighting for a number 1 seed. They have a big matchup later in the year and a region matchup that will provide that opportunity. But right now things are setting up for them to host a bye. So while this isn't a region game, I think from a momentum standpoint and just a confidence factor, this is a game the Wildcats would like to win, especially based off of how they played against Minor last year. But with some reeling health issues, this could still be another game where you give guys an opportunity to get healthy.
Get a little rest. Our game of the week this week is actually going to be Central Kusa is hosting BB Comer. This seems like one that they've circled on their calendar in terms of a game that they could win. BB Comer also very much struggling with numbers. At last I was told they have 16 kids on their roster compared to 24 for Central Kusa. So Central Kusa has got to find a way to win a game, and this would be the one I think that they can actually manage to do it.
Now, everybody that's been watching the program knows how big of a supporter of the Wildcats I am. But I don't think I've been rooting for a team to win a football game more than I have with the Cougars this year, and it would be a really nice story for them to get their first W, and this is a winnable game. And so BB Comer struggling, obviously, and Kusa hasn't necessarily – they've been getting beaten badly, but it's been in the second half. So I think if they're able to jump out on them early and put them away, this would be a really good win. And so the community could use it, Coach Rary could use it, and definitely the team could use it as well.
My only worry is that last week against Pike County was arguably one of their worst games. Definitely their worst score was 64-0, and Coach Rary just really couldn't point to a whole lot of positives at all. Almost said they just didn't quite get off the bus, it seemed like. So I'm hoping that they can just completely forget about that one and realize again that this is a winnable game, and they need to put their minds to what's in front of them rather than what's behind.
Yeah, and the Cougars are known for what they're able to do on the basketball court, and the rivalry on the basketball side is pretty intense. So maybe some of the guys that play both sports there will carry that over onto the football field, because I think from a competitive nature, this is a game that you want to win just because of how close the communities are to each other. But on the other hand, to come off the loss the way that they did last week, we'll see what happens there. But I'm definitely rooting for them, and hopefully Coach Rary and his coaching staff are able to implement some things this week to get that first W.
Another big game on the docket this week is Reeltown at Lafayette. Reeltown is currently 3rd in their region, going up against Lafayette, which is number 2 in their region. This has a lot of implications in terms of how things are going to shake out in that region. Reeltown did not fare very well. I think it was 58-8, something along those lines last year against Lafayette. So I know that they want this game. They are on the road, which makes it a little tougher. But I think knowing how important this game is, Reeltown's going to play one of its better games of the season.
Yeah, and this is one where on paper Lafayette probably has the check marks in terms of advantages or strengths there in most areas, but when you look at the score from last year, coaches remember that. And so players remember too, but coaches are going to remember scores like that. So I can guarantee that they won't be embarrassed to that nature this year. I can't guarantee a victory, but I can guarantee the quality of the game will be much better. So Reeltown, again, in that stretch of games where this is where they want to try to make a move, and as you said, with so many playoff implications surrounding this game, I would expect a big-time performance from the Rebels.
And I feel like Reeltown has been playing better. Aside from the Lynette game, they've been kind of getting better and better each week, especially offensively. Their skill guys have really done their jobs very well. And I think that, holding off Ranburn was a nice kind of defensive to be able to hold them off there at the end. So I think Reeltown is just kind of getting better and better, and maybe they could pull the upset.
Yeah, initially when I saw the picks, I kind of made a quick decision on who I thought would win the game. But now I've had a little more time to think about it, I think it'll be a lot more competitive than what I initially thought. So Coach Johnson's a great competitor, and so that trickles down through his team. So I won't say that they'll win the game, but I think from a competitive standpoint, you'll see a much better ball game than last year.
Our last two teams playing this week both kind of have their backs up against the wall at this point. Dadeville is going up against Elmore County. Dadeville is coming off it was just an ugly loss against Tallahassee. Offensively, defensively, they still had 350 yards of offense, but only scored 13 points. They really have to get a win this week if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, and we talked about it last year. It was the first year in 10 years they haven't made the playoffs, and so now you would hate to go back-to-back years without making it. So every game is must-win going forward, especially in region play. But last week's game, I'm a little surprised. I'm not surprised at the loss, but I'm surprised at how it happened.
Yeah, me too.
I would have anticipated a much closer game there. But this is a game where Elmore County has had a similar season to Dadeville, where it's been up and down. So they've come out and played really well some weeks, and other weeks you wonder which team were you going to get. So I think Dadeville does maintain a presence in the playoff picture as they should be able to become victorious on Friday.
And I would think that Dadeville has a little bit of the advantage, just that Elmer County has one really strong running back, DJ Patrick, I believe his name is, whereas Dadeville has their two categories line with Clay Tucker. We've talked about him every week pretty much, and even given how bad the loss was last week, both of them still had over 100 yards of offense again last week. So hopefully Dadeville will have an offensive advantage this week against Elmer County.
Yeah, and that's their strong point. So if they're able to get those guys going early, I think that they'll be just fine on Friday.
And lastly, Horseshoe Bend plays Vincent. Again, Horseshoe Bend kind of in a position where they've got their backs against the wall a little bit. They need to come away with a victory. I don't know a whole lot about Vincent at all this year, but they're 4-2, I believe, overall, and they seem to be much improved from what they were last year. It sounds like maybe they were kind of a bit of a rollover team in the region last year, and it doesn't seem like that's the case this year.
We see that across the board in multiple regions where teams that you expected to kind of struggle have succeeded, and then vice versa. But as we said, very similar situation with Horseshoe Bend as it is with Dadeville. Must-win games going forward, and all of them are going to be tough from henceforth. So if you're Horseshoe Bend, you just try to keep it close early and then try to capitalize on some things at the end. And this will be a game where I think they'll rely heavily on their defense, in particular their secondary. Just kind of look at some of the things that Vincent has done and how they've scored. They like to do some things through the air. So it should be an entertaining football game for the Generals.
And we're going to keep our fingers crossed that Trace Meadows comes back this week. They are, again, hopeful that he'll play. He didn't play at all last week, and I think they finished with negative rushing yards on the game. Obviously, so much of that team is based around what Trace Meadows can do, both offensively and defensively, too. So we're going to hope that he can play this week for sure.
Yeah, and it takes the whole game plan changes when he's not there, because then that just puts more pressure on the passing game, or putting more pressure on Cade, thus putting more pressure on the defense to hold guys, because they know they may not be able to score as many points. So everything is predicated upon him being able to play on Friday. So we wish him health, and hopefully he'll be suited up on the sidelines.
We are going to wrap it up, as always, with our Dark Horse Player of the Week, sponsored by Dark Insurance Agency. And I'm going to kick it off this week with Jordan Whitlow of Reeltown. We've talked a lot about Reeltown's running backs this year, but we haven't talked a lot about Jordan Whitlow. He's their fullback, and he's the one that's blocking for those running backs. He's the one that's kind of paving the way. Matt Johnson also said that he had a fantastic game defensively at inside linebacker last week. Again, Reeltown is facing this really important win against, maybe it's not a must-win game as Dadeville and Horseshoe Bend are in, but it is a must-win game for those playoff implications we discussed earlier. So I'd look for Jordan Whitlow to have a big game on Friday night.
All right, we're going to keep it with the Wildcats. But we'll go to the defensive side. I'm going to say Brett Pitts. He's had a terrific sophomore season. He's really emerged the last couple of weeks. The first half and the second half really of the Oxford game, stepping in for Benjamin Hendricks, and obviously what he was able to do last week. He's really played extremely well, and his grasp of the defense has been fantastic. So I'm looking for a double-digit tackle performance this Thursday rather, against Minor.
And we are going to have a little special edition of Inside the Lines Live. We'll be out there Thursday night for the Benjamin Russell game for a little short edition. And then we'll also be out at our Game of the Week, BB Comer at Central Kusa on Friday night, as always from 6 to 6:30 on Alex City's Facebook page. So make sure to join us there. Again, we want to thank our sponsors, Rodney and Langley Funeral Homes, as well as Alex City Marine and Dark Insurance Agency. And thank you all for joining us.